example, but just like Planet Fitness, there's going to be solar system fitness, I'm sure, eventually. You know, there's the other fitness programs out there. They're going to leave. They're going to depart. You know, and I've had clients, actually one of which who went to go work for 3 different other companies. And now FMI has a relationship with all of those companies throughout the country because it's kind of moved around the country. But that's what you want. But you can only do that through creating these raving fans. Which brings me to, I mentioned the word recovery before, and I know this interesting, what do your customers want? You know, and this was actually the results of a survey that we did, not about betting, but about the industry. They want friendly, caring service. Wow, that sounds okay, but I mean, it sounds very soft and fluffy. Well, yeah. I mean, they just want to deal with friendly people. Who wants to deal with jerks? You know, I actually have a client in Pennsylvania. They have, one of their mantras is a no jerks policy. They actually, to be blunt, their policy is no assholes. That's what they call it. And that includes people internally as well as customers. They just don't want it. Life's too short. We don't want to work with bad people. So, customers want friendly, caring service, that you care about their business. They understand you're a for-profit entity. They don't think betting is doing this because you're just benevolent, you're like a charity. I know it may not feel like that sometimes, but they know that you got to make a buck. But when they think you're doing it at their expense, that's where it gets teeter-totter. Flexibility. You know, once again, think about how flexible you are. Going back to our personality assessments from earlier, how malleable. Are you a problem resolver, or are you a problem maker? Or are you the wet blanket? And then lastly, we talked about recovery. Our wrap up is this. So the penultimate here is, you know, so what, Greg? I get it. Customer service matters. But how do I do that as a super PM estimator, admin, yada, 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 yada? Okay. So I came up with another, just like we had the PAL from earlier, Purpose, Agenda, and Limits, I came up with the CREATE model. So how do we do this? How do we create raving fans and outstanding customer service? Coordinate, resolve, empathize, that's a key word there, attentiveness, timeliness, and entrenchment. If you take what customers want and say, am I doing these things? That will be where we need to go. The first thing, coordinate, having an organized site. Think about Doug, that story that I kicked us off with. You know, do you have a job site that, you may not have a trailer, I get it, not all of you may you may just have a job site office, but does it look like a construction office or does it look like a professional business office? You know, and you might say, hey, construction's dirty, but we don't have to be dirty. So do we act like professionals? You know, organized communications. Nothing frustrated me more when I would see my superintendent would send a handwritten RFI, RFI number 1, and then but it didn't correspond to my RFIs in Procore that had A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and it was the customer would be like, oh, you got an RFI here, and are you on the same page? Do you work for the same company? That doesn't look good. So ask ourselves, do we coordinate appropriately? Resolve. Yeah, resolving their problems. That's what we're in the business to do. I mean, some of which we'll get paid for, some of which we may not, but our job is at least to find solutions. You may see my beautiful sketch up here. This is one of my final stories on that Jabil company I mentioned. So we had actually had an opportunity, by the way, in the entire life of that Jabil account, we did close to $150 million worth of work for Jabil at a very high margin, I might add. And it was all due to great customer service. The only thing that derailed the relationship was the recession that hit in 2000 and 2001. And obviously 9/11, because they shipped a lot of their work overseas at that time. They make printed circuit boards. But one of the things we did do was build their world headquarters, which is in St. Petersburg. I show you this because This was the world headquarters. Their site had a building in A and a building in B. This was all a parking lot. And right in the middle was this little pond. Remember, this job is in St. Petersburg, Florida, where we're about 4 miles from the sun. So what happened was, when we were getting ready to start this project, they wanted to plop it right in between. Here's the problem. They run parts and pieces from this building to this building all the time. Except, you can see a problem we created. All they used to do would go from here to here and go in from bay to building B. Now they had to go out to the street, walk all the way around, come back up in the middle of summer in Florida. No problem, right? Well, we also knew all their employees would be really pissed off. We would be the pariahs of the neighborhood for causing everybody to have to lose their parking space as well as walk stuff from building A to building B. We saw this as a problem, so what we ended up doing, and we actually got in trouble with the city of St. Petersburg for it. So it's one of those things, no good deed goes unpunished. However, when you got Jabel on your side, Jabel went to bat for us and told the city of St. Pete to shut your mouth, which was kind of a cool thing. But you'll notice what we ended up doing was we said, what if we put a boardwalk from here? It's not a big pond. I mean, it was a drainage pond is what it was. So we put a boardwalk from here to here. To the tune, it was about like $20,000. And we had asked Jabel, we said, would you do this? And they said, yeah, we'll pay for it too. So we put it up. The problem was it's technically considered a navigable waterway. It's a pond. So the city of St. Petersburg tried to fine us for putting in a boardwalk in a pond. And Jabel said, shut your mouth. We're not even going there. I tell you that, we also, the part that we saw, we were going to get ourselves in trouble. I know this doesn't happen in Benning or any other, group within your world, but some of our construction workers, we were afraid would say and do stupid things to this organization had a lot of women working for them, and walking across the boardwalk, we were afraid that some of our workers might say something, and we'll just go there. So what we decided to do was we had golf carts on either end of the boardwalk. So when someone would come out, it would also protect them from the rain, we would literally shuttle them back. So we had day laborers all day long, shuttling people back and forth, like a taxi service. It wasn't a huge pond. We did this probably was a total of maybe a $50,000 investment, of which we got paid about $20,000 to $25,000. So you might say, okay, Greg, you made a business decision of $25,000. That made us, in revenue, about $150 million in revenue, at probably maybe 5 to 6% net profit margin. So the moral of the story was they became so loyal to us. This was not our problem, folks. This had nothing to do with us. In fact, their owner said, hey, yeah, we want to do this. We don't care. Put your people, put your fence up. Put your job site trailer up. Block off our people. And we were like, that's not going to go over well. Find solutions for your customers' problems. Be forward thinking. If you're doing a nighttime renovation, a daytime renovation, a ground up project, we may go, that's not my problem to worry about where their deliveries come. That's Publix's problem. I don't know how they're going to get that equipment in the fitness store. That's not my problem. Any contractor can do that. You're betting, we're different. We find solutions to those problems, and we're tenacious about it. This doesn't mean you have to do freebies. What it does mean is you're finding the right solutions to their problem. So, empathy. Dare I need to say anything more about this? We spent the better portion of the morning talking about personalities. Some of you are very empathetic. Some of you have a little bit of empathy. The thing is, that's what people want. Listen to people's problems and act like you care. That's part of it. So wearing their boots, understanding where they're coming from, thinking big picture relationship. Attentiveness. Be there to answer their questions, because if you're answering the questions, the competition will be. Be as though they can't live without you. Once again, know Publix's business, the movie theater business, better than you know betting's business. That's how you create a great brand. And that's how a lot of you have been amazingly successful at betting for so long. Second to last, timeliness. We've talked and beat this to death. Start hard, finish hard. But folks, all of us get busy. And we do this thing where we go, yeah, I'll call you on Friday, Mr. Customer. I'll let you know what's going on. But Friday comes and goes, and we go, it's just Friday. Heck, it was beer 30. He probably left anyway. And then we call Monday. And he goes, I was waiting for your call, but you never called me. Under promise, over deliver. I'm not saying, be a defeatist, but if you're going to call on Friday, you call on Friday. Or if you don't think it's going to be possible, say, I'll call you Monday, but then call Friday. Either way, make sure, don't be like we had a contractor in our previous house. All I needed the guy to do was the screens on our back deck. And this guy would be like, yeah, I'll be out there on Friday. So my wife would kind of arrange everything and wait. Never show up, never call. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, hey, I'll be out there this Friday. And we go through that whole doom loop every now and again. You guys have trade contractors that do that to you. They keep trying to punt. Or they tell you what you want to hear, not what you need. Don't be that guy. Don't be that person. And then lastly, entrench yourself. Follow up. Yes, superintendents. Call those customers you worked with years ago. Say, hey, I was just thinking of you. We built your project back in 2017. How's it looking? I know you have people here that do that, but just be that person to follow up. Once again, that's those tentacles we want connecting. Or I use the word entrench yourself like a tick. That's really gross now that I think about it. But get deep within those organizations. That's how you make these bonds that you can't break with any of these other customers. And then lastly, being their go-to for everything. Being the answer that they need. Like I said, I can't say this to every contractor. I work with a lot of hard bid municipal contractors. I realize you do hard bid stuff. Hard bid municipal, it's not to say you don't need to be customer service there, but because people, once again, you're going to get more bees with honey if you're nice to resident engineers and inspectors. But the idea is they're going to bid someone else out the next time, and it's going to be complicated. But the fact is you have these long, deep relationships, so entrench yourself and get deep. Folks, we have, and I've got just a couple wrap-ups here that I wanted to cover with you. So far, we have covered operations, we've covered leadership and management, of which some of you were here for some, and others, it's complicated. That being said, I wanted to give you a little pop quiz to see how much retention we had. So, for those of you that were here last week, how much time is played in a football game?
15 minutes, 16 minutes.
We'll give you a partial credit. 12 minutes, you're close enough. Point is, how much time goes into planning a football game?
A week.
A week, 1,000 hours. So now the biggest question is, how much time do you spend planning your jobs that last 8 months? And don't say 12 minutes. So, which process should dial the field leader into minimizing emergencies? So of all the things we talked about, what's going to make sure we don't have those last minute calls to the warehouse, shop, office? Planning, short interval planning in particular. Do you all remember how much rework costs? Remember that little calculation we did? Who was my rework checker outer? Who was that from?
10 times.
10 times.
I think Gerardo
easily.
was counting it.
Who was that?
I think Gerardo was counting it.
Yeah, that's right. You were my rework
14.
checker outer. So, and I think Gerardo, he was a tough grader. He was like, you had like 28. Oh, he was rough. How much time is wasted on any given job site? Remember, what's that percentage of recoverable lost time? Anyone remember that one? 32%. So how much time is wasted on job sites? 8-hour day? Do the math. 2.5 hours. Not vending job sites, we know that's not the case. Most of this is our studies have shown 2.5 hours are spent. And remember, you guys were actually better. I think when we did the bridge, you were close to what, 26, 27%. So good, but that's still a lot of wasted time. So if you remember, we also talked about leadership and management. We had a smaller group, but you probably heard me use these words almost interchangeably over the last day. Leadership, change for better results. Management, on the other hand, is consistency for better results. Hence, why do we call them project managers? Because they manage a process. On the other hand, we have leaders that also say we need to change this and go in a different direction. So we then talked about our peak leader model. For my folks who are here for session 1, POC. What's POC stand for? Outstanding! Gold star for that guy over there. Planning, organize, and controlling. Can you go for double jeopardy and tell me what SAM stands for? Honesty, I appreciate it.
You don't get to ring the bell.
Yeah. SAM stands for all things leadership, which is setting direction, aligning resources, and motivating others. Now you might say, well, what's the difference, Greg? One was POC, one was SAM, I get it. Well, there are times where you wear that planning hat, organizing, you wear the managerial side. There's other times as a superintendent where I gotta lead. I gotta align my resources, I gotta provide motivation, and I gotta set that direction. What about lead from within? What does that mean? Folks, it's real simple. Lead with this thing. All of you are outstanding leaders. You don't need me to tell you this stuff. The idea of having that passion, leading with passion. And then lastly, this EI. What's EI? Oh, yeah.
Emotional intelligence.
Good job, because it's written. Thank you, sir. But what is it? There's another key word for it. We just talked about it in the first E of the CREATE model.
Empathy.
Empathize. Why did I emphasize that? Empathy? Why did I emphasize empathize? The idea is because that's probably one of the things our industry struggles with the most. So once again, amping up the empathy to make sure we do the things that we're talking about when it comes to communication, teams, and customer service. Folks, we have one more session in which we will manage some time and then also make some money. So